All right, so these are the 3 mistakes that event planners make when they're booking the events. Mistake number 1 is the late booking and insufficient information. I just want to break that down a little bit. So when just imagine there's a pool of interpreters out there, and the absolute best interpreters are pretty much getting selected first for all the events that are currently available. And when you schedule your events, if you're getting inside of a 2-week window, your likelihood of getting the best interpreter for your event goes down. So we advise all of our clients to, as often as possible. Of course, we facilitate all the needs, and we work really hard to make sure that every event is, even inside the 2-week window, is facilitated. However, as often as possible, schedule a meeting. Make sure the event is booked 2 weeks in advance. When you do that, you have a much higher likelihood of improving the quality of the top talent that you could have for your meeting, and that all the details, that you have plenty of time to make sure all the details about your meeting, where they're supposed to be, what time they're supposed to be there, if there's background checks, or if they need a special school privilege to get in there, or making sure that they have the shot requirements if they're going into a hospital type situation, all of these types of things, making sure that those are all covered and that you can get the right interpreter for that project. Rush decisions can lead to mismatches in skills and requirements. I've seen this happen before in other companies, and it's just an incredibly frustrating situation when they worked really hard to get the interpreter, and they get or maybe it's a parent-teacher meeting, and they get the parents there, and the student there, and the school is there, and the principal is there, and the interpreter's there, and somebody in this event can't facilitate the necessary communication across the board, and nothing gets done. And all these people wasted all this time just to meet and not be able to fully connect all the way across the board. Whether that's maybe somebody didn't realize that it was a different dialect inside of a language, and this interpreter couldn't speak that, or whether it's the expertise of an interpreter wasn't that, so that he could or she could interpret to the parents or to the school board what was needed to be communicated. So there's so many different mismatches that can happen, and scheduling outside of that 2-week window is a huge way that you can avoid that and cause smooth and very clear communication and connect with your target audience. Just as a caveat to that, or just as an asterisk to that, interpreters always need time to prepare and familiarize themselves with the subject matter at hand. Last-minute meetings often result in higher costs and potentially rescheduling the meetings to avoid the risk of low-quality service. Because in my company, I won't risk our reputation on a low-quality provision of service simply because we were not able to schedule the right interpreter for the job on time. We do our best to make sure that we facilitate all meetings and all needs, and regardless of the time frames. However, we won't put our reputation on the line simply to make a buck. And so I want to make sure that this is kind of solidified as the number 1 mistake that event planners can make. Because if you can overcome this mistake, then it helps a lot with the next 2. And mistake number 2 is neglecting the specialized expertise. So every single meeting, every single industry, every single event has a specific expertise required for the event. And so when you're scheduling your event with an interpreter, you have to make sure that that event has the expertise. So if you just have a friend who knows a language that you need interpreted, that might be sufficient, but it's likely that it's not, because legal events are interpreted one way. The court interpretation is interpreted another way. The parent-teacher meetings are interpreted another way. The hospital visits, they're interpreted in their own special way. And all of these have a specific expertise and education that goes alongside of it. So if you just have a friend that speaks a language, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to have that depth of expertise in being able to facilitate and smoothly work through the nuances of communication required for that industry and for that meeting. So the third and very important mistake to avoid during your event planning for your interpreting sessions is the overlooking of technical requirements. So there are many different technical needs while you're facilitating the process of interpretation, whether that's for headsets, how many headsets are needed, how many interpreters will be, how many backup interpreters will there be, how many different types of softwares we're going to need for this process, or what the actual software that's going to be used for every single person in the event, getting that disseminated to everyone in the event, making sure the interpreter's set up for that. I've had interpreters show up and the interpreter and the backup interpreter set up ready to do the event, and somebody's microphone doesn't work, even though it was all tested before the event started. And so we immediately had to revert to the backup interpreter, which took and facilitated the project, even though they're on the exact same platforms. So all of these kind of technical nuances, they have to be tested, disseminated, communicated, and retested before and during and as soon as the event starts up, to make sure that everything goes very smoothly. So there's a lot of different technicalities that have to be understood and worked through. And so as you're working on planning your event, that's why making sure your event is scheduled before the two-week window, making sure that you can get the right expertise lined up for the job, for the industry that you're working in, for the specific meeting type that you've got, and then making sure all the technical requirements are in place, in alignment, and clearly distributed to everyone in the meetings, and making sure all those things are tested are so important for being able to have a great event and make sure your organization and you yourself look like you've got things under control. So I just want to emphasize one last time that during the event, it's not simply, okay, I got the interpreter set up, I've disseminated all of the information to who it needs to go to, and now the event begins and everything goes perfectly. No, there's actually technical support aspect that has to be in place during the entirety of the event. So for us, when we facilitate these, one of our representatives is actually in the event. If we're not in the event, we are right there within a phone call or a text message away, so that we can be providing the technical support during the event. Because so many times everybody gets on the event, somebody's link doesn't work, somebody's microphone doesn't work, somebody's video doesn't work, and all of these can shut down a meeting just like that. And so you have to make sure that the technical aspect and technical support people are ready and waiting when you need it. In conclusion, don't let language barriers compromise your next event's success. Visit TaikaTranslations.com to access our network of specialized interpreters and project managers to ensure crystal clear communication with excellent technical support for all of your multilingual events. And hey, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more insider tips on breaking down language barriers. Whether you're in the business world or commercial world or facilitating a government event somewhere around the world, we'd love to help you out with that. And we're going to be providing more content like this so that you can be successful in facilitating your next event.